Support for Michigan Public comes from the University of Michigan's Look to Michigan campaign, working towards a stronger, more connected Michigan, championing sustainability, global citizenship, and educational opportunity. More information at looktomichigan.umich.edu.
I'm wondering why there's a rivalry between Michigan and Ohio and not between Michigan and any other Midwestern state.
Give it up for listener Tina Marua of Grand Rapids, who had the fortitude to ask us this question, standing in the streets of Ann Arbor. And the more we thought about it, the lady's got a point. You know that the rivalry has been going on for more than 100 years. But how many of us, decked out in our maize and blue, or scarlet and gray, can explain why? Why don't we get worked up about Indiana or Wisconsin? Why is it Michigan versus Ohio State?
Something interesting is going on the field right now. Michigan tried to plant their flag in the middle of the Ohio State field, and the Buckeyes rushed right to them.
Second down, 14.
And for Ohio State fans, they've said, look, we don't care about the national championship as long as we beat Michigan.
When you talk about two teams hating each other, this is it right here. Look, they out there jumping folks. It was crazy last night, I'm telling y'all. They out there ripping Bro Shiesty off. They got real hate in their hearts for each other. They damn near got half the
all these ancient hatreds. Wolverines versus Buckeyes, the Big House versus the Horseshoe, maize and blue, scarlet and gray. Of course, it all feels so permanent. Like the game is etched into the history of our two states. Like it's written in our state constitutions. We must be rivals. And it's not just our two teams that feel this way. Michigan versus Ohio State is consistently ranked in poll after poll as the biggest and best collegiate rivalry in the nation. But why? We share borders with other Midwestern neighbors. How did this beef get so big and so bad? This is On Hand, a podcast that answers your most persistent questions about Michigan things, all the stuff that makes us who we are in this state. I'm April Baer. Today, why Michigan and Ohio State are such deadly serious football rivals. Your investigative producer this week is me. I was born in Ohio. I live in Michigan now. And I've been drinking this bitter, bitter milk since before I could talk.
Going back to my high school coach, Robert Yaw, he said, if you do not have a nemesis, you're not important.
That's Michigan football legend Tyrone Wheatley.
If you do not have a rival, you are not significant.
Superman, Lex Luthor, Batman, Joker.
Ohio State, Michigan.
Right.
We're going to talk to him about what the game means to the people who live it in a bit. But first, we want to get deep into the history. Woody Hayes used to say that the rivalry began with the Toledo War, like in the 1800s. I mean, do we think that's actually true?
Well, I think causation and correlation that's a good lesson here.
Michael Rosenberg, a Michigan grad, is a senior sports writer for Sports Illustrated and author of the book War as They Knew It, that gets deep into the guts of the rivalry.
Once it became big, it was easy to come up with these things in the past that sort of stirred it. Look, these are two states that are rabid about football, built great programs early on, and are next to each other. They touch. And so that was probably going to happen. I mean, you look around the country at other rivalries, and it was usually regional, usually proximity was the reason. But that overlap, I think, the history of it has always kind of been woven into it. You know, I mean, if you go to Toledo, it feels like it is not Northern Ohio. It feels like it is like 1 foot in each state.
You may know that as young states, Ohio and Michigan were totally at each other's throats during the 1830s over the territory that is now Metro Toledo. A few decades later, in the 1890s, when collegiate athletics was a baby, Michigan was part of a 7-school group called the Western Conference. Eventually, people started calling this group the Big Nine. The 19-teens roll around, Ohio State gets involved, and that was the birth of the Big Ten. Now, in these early years, the game was a semi-regular thing, and this is simply a fact. Michigan beat the crap out of Ohio State every time.
Yeah, I always would kind of be amused by that during that 20-year stretch or whatever it was when Ohio State recently had been dominating the rivalry, and you'd look at the overall record and you would see that Michigan was, still ahead.
The guy who coached Michigan through those first two formidable decades of the 20th century, Fielding Yost, was not especially beloved by his colleagues in Columbus, Rosenberg said. Yost was ruthless, possibly to the point of bending certain rules, but the dude won games, especially against Ohio State.
It's an interesting what-if question, at least for me. What if Ohio State had been the best team early on, right? Like, what if they'd had their version of Fielding Yost in 1901, 02, 03, 04? Would they have had as much anger towards Michigan for the next 120 years? Because it kind of, once it's ingrained, it's just there, It doesn't go away like, well, now we've been beating them. Like it's still, that rage is sort of still there. But I do think that was part of it, too. I think a lot of what happens on the field is then kind of ascribed to what happens off the field and vice versa. And I think the fact that Michigan was so good at times in the first half of the 20th century, and Ohio State was so determined to beat Michigan, I do think that kind of framed the rivalry going forward. And if you go look from like the 30s or 40s through until Urban Meyer resigned, every Ohio State coach, none of them left entirely of their own choosing. None of them. And they would, you're getting into the 40s when it's college football. Army and Princeton are still kind of powers, okay? And yet at Ohio State, the pressure to win is so overwhelming that guys are coaching for a year or two or three and they're saying, get me out of here, I can't do this anymore. And so I do think once Ohio State got good, that's when it became kind of this blood war.
1951, Uber Buckeye and military history enthusiast Wayne Woodrow Hayes enters the chat as Ohio State's head coach.
Winning is the epitome of team effort. And we must keep that, and we must inculcate that into our football players.
Would you use the word indoctrinate?
Yes, it would very much. Well, so many of our liberals are against that word, but I am not.
Woody, he was an absolutist. He was a true believer. He would not compromise. He was stubborn beyond belief. He lived by an ethos. He had a value system, and it was sometimes admirable, sometimes maybe not, but he lived by it.
The gasoline on the rivalry's fire came when Michigan lured Woody Hayes' assistant coach, Bo Schembechler, to come turn its program around.
But there's going to be one team that's going to play solely as a team. No man is more important than the team. No coach is more important than the team. The team, the team, the team.
It was kind of perfect. As a drama, it was perfect. Neither of them, obviously, was perfect. No program or place is perfect. But that was perfect. They call it the 10-year war. You had this mentor and student. They were so alike. And when they were so alike that their differences became noticeable. That contrast between the two of them, I think Michigan people, that sort of elitism, they love to say, look at that Ohio State guy. He's
That's all he cares about is football. It's all he knows.
Yeah, he's so unrefined, and then the Ohio State people would just look at Michigan and think they just think they're better than we are. And the fact that it's happening at a time when, in the beginning there's maybe one game on television every year, once a year you're playing each other. That game is almost always determining the Big Ten title. There's no playoff system. Like all of these things, it was just right time, right place for those 3 hours on that Saturday in November to just be the kind of thing you think about all year long.
We need to take a short break. When we come back, the rivalry from the perspective of one of Michigan's legendary players, Tyrone Wheatley.
Support for Michigan Public's On Hand podcast comes from Zingerman's Mail Order, delivering food gifts for any occasion, from local handmade breads to imported foods like chocolate-dipped figs from Spain. Zingerman's Mail Order ships anywhere in America. More at zingermans.com.
Support for Michigan Public's On Hand podcast comes from Lake Trust Credit Union, working to empower financial well-being for Michigan consumers, businesses, and communities. Committed to financial solutions and advice to support people and families. More information at laketrust.org.
It's really hard to overstate how the 10-year war accelerated what was already a pile of bad football feelings between Michigan and Ohio. By the time Tyrone Wheatley got to Ann Arbor, the conflagration was well underway.
Everything that Michigan talked about was the narrow gate, being the Michigan man, doing things the hard way, doing things the Michigan, there was a Michigan way.
I went to talk to Tyrone Wheatley at his office in Detroit. He's the head coach of the Wayne State Warriors. Tyrone Wheatley grew up in Inkster, Michigan, a standout track and basketball star who also played 8 different football positions while leading his high school football team to a state championship. When he committed to Michigan, it was largely because of head coach at the time, Gary Moeller. Moeller had kind of a short tenure at Michigan, as these things go, but he was a consequential figure, immediately following Bo Schembechler in the job.
By the time you were well into your time with the Wolverines, Bo, I think, had even moved on from the AD role. He was working for the Tigers, but did he ever show up and give the talk, the team, all that stuff?
Did he ever show up? He never left. It was always good to see him back, because not only was there a legacy, but there was an aura. It's amazing for a young man who never played for him, but just to hear the words, and when he walks in the building, just to know that you were able to play for someone, and then not only just play for someone, but to play for a school that had that much significance. The biggest thing was Gary Moeller understood, just as Bo understood, the whole Ohio State, Michigan thing, and which built really Michigan up back to his resurgence in the place of college football based off of what Ohio State had done in what they call the 10-year war.
Gary Moeller was also someone who went 3-1-1 against Ohio State. What do you remember about how he got the team ready for the rivalry game?
365, right? And what I mean by that is everything you did year round was to prepare for Ohio State. It was to prepare for that game. And we really didn't care about anything else. And not saying that Michigan State, Notre Dame, not saying any of those games didn't matter. But if you prepare for Ohio State, you will win those games, right? And then being prepared for those games, now you get to the big game, which is Ohio State, you're ready for that one. Joey Galloway, Raymond Harris, Big Eddie George, Butler Benote, and the list goes on. I mean, they were a freaking powerhouse, I mean, they were a really great team. And so, therefore, to get to where you wanted to go, you had to beat them. So, yes, we wanted to go to the Rose Bowl, but the only way to go to the Rose Bowl was to get through them.
What would you say it means to a team to have a nemesis like that?
I think sport is really the only place where you're looking for a rivalry.
And so we are ready to go with number 88 between these two universities.
The first year that Tyrone Wheatley played in the rivalry game, the matchup happened in Ann Arbor. And he says he remembers everything.
Absolutely, I do. It was my freshman year, right? And So I have to go through the week of practice. You hear about it, and all of a sudden this week comes up, and the guys are duct taping, the special teams and the we call it demo squad, which was the practice squad guys who practice against the offense and defense. So the scout team guys, they're duct taping their helmets, with the duct tape is silver, and they're putting the stripe down. I mean, like, it's a pageantry. Like, this is it. And so you go through that week, and practice is already intense, and it turns up another 5 notches, right? It turns up another 5 notches. And you ever heard the term, if you can just stick a match out and it'll light just by the electricity in the room? That's what it was.
These Michigan tailbacks are all quick enough, but the thing that's impressive about them, Bob, is they're big guys. Tyrone Wheatley, the third tailback, is 215 pounds.
And he's got more speed than the first two.
Now it's game time. As you're in it and you're going, so I'm a young freshman. Ricky Powers goes down, who's your starting running back. He goes down. Jesse Johnson goes down in the second quarter. And all of a sudden, it's a young Wheatley turn to step up.
Hands it off to Wheatley, who's played a lot today. So that's why he comes on out to the 27-yard line, where it's first down Michigan, pick up 24 yards.
And the greatest thing about it was Jesse Johnson and Ricky Powers were both there to help me through. Now, was I nervous? Absolutely. I mean, I had goosebumps large enough you could read them as Braille. As that's how large they were, right? And it was like nervousness, man. But I calmed down and I finished the game, a pretty good game. I don't remember the yards, but I think it was like 75, 80 yards with a touchdown.
And it's third down and goal from the 6-yard line. Blitz. Wheatley runs right by the blitz. Touchdown.
It was just great. But the biggest thing was it wasn't about my day. It wasn't about the day I had. Because as you understand the game, you keep Ohio State from getting the little silly pants that they get to wear around their neck. Okay. All right. And for every M that they cross out on their campus, right, you say, okay, you keep crossing out the M's. But the biggest thing was you won that game for the fifth-year seniors. You won that game for the men who came before you. So it's never, that's why I don't remember the stats. It's never about the stats. Only stat that matters is you won.
Are there things that happened during those games and during that rivalry that inform the way you coach today?
Yes. It really is, because one thing is attention to detail. And I will say this, although I'm sitting here and I'm talking about Ohio State, as I dislike them, whatever, there is a huge, profound respect for them. I mean, when you hit some of those guys, it's like hitting a refrigerator or being hit by a truck. So they were in perfect condition. They were some of the smartest athletes. I mean, there would be times I'm in the backfield and they're calling out our play, like he's coming here or he's going there. Like, you're like, oh, come on, But it was such a profound effect. So when you play against somebody and they're on their game, then you have to be on yours, right? Bo and Mo used to say it all the time, put an iron rod in your back. We're going to bend, but we won't break. They're going to have their time. They're going to push you. They're going to get you. They're going to get you. But put the iron rod in your back and bend, but don't break. And that comes from being mentally tough. And so a lot of that I take today into my coaching.
Tyrone Wheatley, legendary Michigan running back, Rose Bowl MVP, who, by the way, also found enough time to letter in track in Michigan 3 consecutive years while he was playing football. I want to say a special thanks to listener Tina Marua in Grand Rapids for posting this week's question about the rivalry. If you have a Michigan question of your own, like why the Tigers cannot seem to get out of their own way, or who the best hockey player has been in the Red Wings' 100 years of history, please do send it. You can find the submission form in our show notes or head to michiganpublic.org. Obviously, we're here for all your non-sporty questions as well. That's On Hand for this week. This episode was produced by me with help from our executive producer, Laura Weber Davis. Thanks for listening. We'll see you again next week. Go Blue.